FPL Game Week 36, the top transfer targets. In today's video, we're going to have a look at some of the best players you should be considering buying for the final 3 weeks of the season. That is right, just 3 single game weeks left, and you need to be using your transfers wisely. Is someone like a Jared Bowen, is someone like a Wissa, a Mateus Cunha worth one of your last transfers? Who should you be selling and who's actually worthwhile with the final 3 weeks with something to play for, or are teams actually on the beach? What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here. And my voice is getting better. Thank you all very much for the nice messages on the video yesterday. It is getting better. It is not fully recovered, but it is also a little bit croaky because it is 10 o'clock. I waited until the Arsenal PSG game had finished. Of course, Arsenal going out of the Champions League, which does boost their appeal a little bit from an FPL perspective. Maybe not in terms of buys because they have Liverpool and Newcastle in the next 2. But we might be looking at them for Southampton away, but it also might be not as worthwhile selling some of your Arsenal players if you were considering that this week, just because they've got nothing else to focus on. So Liverpool away this week for Arsenal, they might want to prove a point going up against the team that have beaten them to the Premier League. Newcastle at home the next week is then their final home game of the season where they might want to put a bit on a show. And then the Southampton away game is Southampton away, and you can absolutely look to target that as well. But we're going to dive in and we're going to start off by having a look straight at the fixtures for the final 3 weeks. Again, looking at teams to target. You've seen this list, I'm sure, all over the content that you're probably looking to watch this week. We spoke about it in the video yesterday. But for me, Nottingham Forest, Manchester City, Brentford, potentially Everton defensively, Bournemouth, West Ham, Wolves, and Aston Villa are probably the teams that I've got assets that I'm looking to buy over the next couple of game weeks. Once we get until game week 37 and 38, we start to see another couple of teams creep in. Literally having a look at Bournemouth with Leicester at home, Arsenal going away to Southampton, and Newcastle with Everton at home on the final day. But again, once you look down at the bottom of the fixture ticker, you've got Crystal Palace, Liverpool, in theory Chelsea, and Newcastle, all with difficult fixtures over the next couple of weeks, who there is a bit of ownership on. So I am understanding why a lot of you are looking to make quite a few transfers at the moment. So having a look at the attacking and defensive data, and there are a couple of teams that I do think we need to start pulling out. Starting off with some of the attacks, looking at some of the teams that we're looking to target and maybe buy players from. Brentford in 10th, 16th is Wolves, but they have been one of the biggest improvers in terms of their attacking data over the past 6 weeks. So someone like Mateus Cunha is potentially a popular asset. If you're looking to buy a Chris Wood, I would be very, very cautious. They have been one of the biggest decliners and have some of the worst attacking data over the past 6 weeks, creating just 0.76 expected goals per 90 minutes compared to their 1.2 season average, which still isn't that good either. Arsenal and Aston Villa, along with Newcastle, still with something to fight for so far for the remainder of the season, are seeing improved performances as well. Once you move over to some of the defensive data, again, if you're looking to buy a defender this week, you are notoriously drawn to Nottingham Forest, who have Leicester at home this week, but they have seen the biggest decline in defensive data over the past 6 weeks compared to their season data out of any team in the league, conceding almost 2 XG per game over the past 6 weeks. They've also had a worse defensive record in XG conceded over that time compared to Southampton, who in theory are the worst defense overall so far this season. Chelsea continue to remain really good, as well as Arsenal. So if you're looking at someone like an Alexander Isak going up against Chelsea, then Arsenal, and then Everton, who are in at 4th as well, it actually doesn't look that great as well if we're starting to relate this to players. Isak's last 3 fixtures looking pretty tough at the moment. So starting to have a look at some fixtures, and just before we look at the defenders, actually what I want to talk through is the percentage chance of clean sheets over the next 3 game weeks. So what you've got here is the percentage chance of each team having a clean sheet ranked by their total across the 3 weeks. So Manchester City have the highest chance of clean sheets across the 3 weeks. Southampton have the least. Now, we've said it all along that buying defenders will be very dependent on what week you need them. So, for example, you can see here that if you were needing to buy a defender for game weeks 36 and 38, but you didn't need them in the week in between, someone like a Liverpool defender, for example, of course, a Manchester City defender, a Fulham or a Brentford option could be quite good. But if you do need to play them in game week 37, then someone like Manchester City still, Chelsea, but then Everton start to become a little bit more popular. So again, if you want to buy a defender who you need to start every single week between now and the end of the season purely for clean sheets, of course, we'll talk about attacking threat in a moment. Manchester City, Arsenal, in theory, Nottingham Forest, but I'm not sure I'd be doing that. They rely very heavily on that Leicester game. Chelsea in there as well. Newcastle and Bournemouth is very weighted to the final game of the season. Brentford, Aston Villa and Fulham have quite a nice spread across the 3 fixtures. So having a look at some of those defenders to buy, number 1, will remain in Gvardiol. He is expected to play some minutes between now and the end of the season at left back. We are seeing Akanji get some minutes now, and that pushes Gvardiol out to left back with O'Reilly coming off the pitch. His attacking data, his XGI per 90 is the best of all the defenders on the list. As we saw, they have the highest chance of the clean sheets between now and the end of the season. He's predicted to score the most points and has 3 great fixtures as well. I do also like Ruben Diaz if you want to double up on the City defence, if you're committed to not going with an Erling Haaland if he's back, with a Marmoush, with a Kevin De Bruyne in the midfield as well. But outside of that, I actually do like Ryan Aït-Nouri. Now, their defensive data isn't as good, but his attacking threat is great. He hit the post in the past game, and we know what he did in the blank game week as well. Brighton, Crystal Palace and Brentford are not bad fixtures. If you need a defender, you have to play across all 3 weeks between now and the end of the season. I do think you should consider Ryan Aït-Nouri. Now, if you need a defender specifically for this week, I would have a look at Nottingham Forest. Murillo sounds like he should be okay. You could go with Milenkovic, but his attacking threat from set pieces has actually dried up quite a lot recently. So I've gone with Olaraina, who does look pretty advanced at the moment, and Williams if you need a slightly cheaper option. But the only thing is there, you are relying very much on Leicester, who have looked a little bit better recently. I'm not sure if you haven't bought Nottingham Forest that they're really worth a transfer. Especially you need to consider, does it force a hit at some point between now and the end of the season? Even if it's not this week, in game week 37 or game week 38, are you going to be taking a hit because you're buying a Forest defender this week? Then I'm not sure it's worth it. Another one a bit like Aït-Nouri is Collins. I think the fixtures between now and the end of the season are pretty good. Vandenberg, also at Brentford, is a pretty nice, cheaper option at just 4.1. Slightly less nailed than Collins, slightly less attacking threat, but as a cheap option, he's not bad. Kirkes, I like. Villa at home, and then, of course, Leicester at home on the final day is great, but you'd have to be able to bench him in game week 37. O'Brien, I quite like. The issue is Newcastle away on the final day really hurts his projected points. And then we've got Wan-Bissaka. His attacking threat's not being that bad, but he does play for the worst defense out of any of the ones we've got here. So really, if you're looking to buy this week, it's probably Collins, it's maybe a Forest defender, or it's Aït-Nouri. And then when we have a look at projected goals between now and the end of the season, so the same thing as we saw earlier, but looking at projected goals for all the teams, Manchester City, Liverpool and Arsenal remain very high up. We start to see Aston Villa creep up as well because they are predicted to score 2.5 goals in that Spurs at home fixture. Now, the only thing I'd say about that is that being moved to the Friday night, in theory, boosts Spurs' potential a little bit in that game because there might be a little bit less rotation than if it had been played on the Sunday, really close to the Europa League final. Of course, we need to know that Spurs get to the Europa League final first. Of course, they do play what will be tonight at time of viewing, but on Thursday evening. Bournemouth, of course, high up, but they are very much weighted to one game. Chelsea, Brentford, Newcastle, it's the same sort of candidates, but it's quite interesting just to see if you're trying to pick for specific weeks and you can ignore and bench this week, or you can bench in 37, or you can bench in 38. This is the projections of goals for every single week for every single team. So as a result, when we move into players to buy and we're looking at midfielders, Bryan Mbeumo remains number 1. I really like the fixtures for the last 3 weeks. The data's good and he's at a really affordable price. If you can get to Kevin De Bruyne, I do like it. Of course, Manchester City are one of the early kickoffs on Saturday, so hopefully we might hear confirmation if he's going to start or not before you potentially go and buy him. And number 3, I know people are not going to like this, but it is Cole Palmer. Newcastle away, Man United at home, Forest away. Chelsea will be fighting for something between now and the end of the season. His XG per 90 is the best of all the players on the list. He's predicted in a lot of the models to do very well. He's also predicted to actually be the best captaincy option in game week 37 at home to Manchester United. Now, I personally imagine I'll be captaining Mo Salah that week, but if you need a differential, Cole Palmer could be one to look at if you have a lot of money spare. If you don't have money spare, Jared Bowen then fits very well. United away this week. Again, they play in Europe on Thursday. Then it's Forest, who we've seen fall off defensively, and then it is Ipswich on the final day. With Arsenal going out of the Champions League, Bukayo Saka is one to have a look at. Liverpool away this week, maybe not great, but Newcastle at home, Southampton away across the final 2. It's actually a really nice couple of games. Between him and Cole Palmer, I don't think there's that much to pick between it. Maybe Chelsea have slightly more to play for, though. Then it is Kluivert, again, a little bit like Kirkes when we look at the defenders. If you need them this week and in game week 38, they look really nice. He's not been quite as good, but I do like him for those games. Then it's Rodgers. We've got a couple of the Nottingham Forest options in Gibbs White and Alanga low down, although they are definitely not creating as many chances as you'd like. And the final one in at number 9 is Kevin Schade. Now, he's just 5.1 million, so his value rating is really high. He is predicted to be the lowest scoring option out of all the midfielders that we've got here, but he should start the remaining few games. The only caveat that I would add is their big signing up front in Thiago is just returning to the squad. He played 10 minutes in the last game. Is it possible he gets a start between now and the end of the season? Yes. In theory, Kevin Schade would be the one that would drop out. Now, if he doesn't get a game between now and the end of the season or even a start, Schade looks like incredible value if you're looking to buy at that price now. And then we're looking up front now. Yoane Wissa with Ipswich this week looks like the best option probably to buy this week, but there are some other options to consider if you don't want to go for what is probably the most likely transfer in and you have slightly more budget, for example. I do really like Wissa, though. He gets so many big chances. The only thing is his bonus points and not on penalties is not quite as good. Ollie Watkins is next, but he's very expensive and he feels like a big luxury. He is predicted to do very well on the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Again, if you want any of this data yourself, you can check it out in the link in the description below. Alexander Isak just remains a good option. You're probably not buying him now, but I don't really see the need to sell him. One of the players I really like is Matheus Cunha. Brighton at home, Palace away, Brentford at home are good fixtures. He has 2 fixtures at home compared to Wissa only having 1 left at home. Wissa, of course, also does have that Ipswich fixture, which is quite nice. But Cunha's goal threat, slightly less in terms of data. His assist threat is really high. I do like him if you have the money. And actually, if you want a differential, going with Cunha over Wissa feels like such a good option. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cunha outscores Wissa. I do like them both over going with Chris Wood now. The attacking data for Forest is okay. If you want to buy, you have to buy this week for Leicester. Marmoush with Haaland coming back, just with his positioning, is an okay hold. I'm not really sure I'd be looking to buy new. If you need a cheaper option, it's probably Evan Nielsen this week, or you look at Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy has Forest at home, Forest away this week, then Ipswich at home, and he is 1 goal away from 200 Premier League goals. Could he get that in his final home game? If you like a narrative, Jamie Vardy is surely the one to have a look at. Jackson is a bit of a differential again with Parma, Chelsea having a lot to play for over the final 3 games. And number 10 is Erling Haaland. The reason he's number 10 is just uncertainty of minutes at the moment. We might know going into the deadline, like with De Bruyne, like with Marmoush, if he's going to start or not. His online data is great, and if for some reason we heard that he was going to start Southampton, he would suddenly be one of the best differentials in the game because people would just not be able to go there. I personally don't think he's going to start, which is why he's at the bottom of the list, but I still think he's worth considering. If it's going to take you a -8 to go and buy him, even if he does start, I don't think it's worth it. -4, if you are definitely going to captain him, maybe. But even then, I'm not certain of it. If, of course, you could do it for free. But again, if you're going to buy Haaland, you have to wait until the deadline and you have to get confirmation that he is going to start. So that is defenders, midfielders, forwards. We've had a look at a lot of data tables today. I appreciate there's a lot in there. So any specific transfers, drop it all in the comment section down below. Hopefully that's a good understanding of players I'd be looking to buy. I suppose the only big question is Mateta and Sarr. I do like Crystal Palace's matchup away at Spurs this week. I'm not sure I'd be rushing to sell them. If you do have a transfer, I think Wissa and Cunha are probably better than Mateta this week, but I definitely wouldn't be forcing it for a hit. If you're chasing and you want to do something a bit different, because a lot of people still own Mateta, then it's fine for free, but I wouldn't do it for a -4. So just thought I would bolt that on there because I know Mateta out to Wissa or Cunha or someone like that is probably the most popular transfer this week. Anyway, we'll wrap up the video there. Thank you all for watching. Again, my voice will hopefully be better in the morning and every time I record a video. And hopefully by the stream on Saturday, it's fully mended because 2 hours talking like this might be a bit too much. Anyway, thank you all for watching. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here. Drop any questions you have, of course, in the comment section down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. If not, they will be included in shaping the future videos this week to hopefully answer everything you need. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back again very soon.